I'm Adam and this is Reel Rivalries, the show where we pit two movies head to head and let you decide the winner. This week features two of my favorite flicks, Jaws and Jurassic Park. The categories in play are creatures, cast, story, and assembly. These are both amazing classics, and no matter what film ends up on top, Steven Spielberg wins. Let's get to it. There are certain things in this world you can always count on to go wrong. The McFlurry machine at McDonald's breaking down, a new Slinky becoming tangled and unusable after 5 minutes of use, and metal rusting when submerged into salt water. The latter was an ongoing and nightmarish problem for Spielberg and his crew. His sharks were constantly sinking, which ultimately would end up making the movie better. By forcing to limit the screen time of Bruce the Shark, named by the director, the audience was more on edge as to what the mysterious beast would look like. The mind is a powerful tool, one which can cook up some pretty scary imagery if left to its own devices. The shark is teased throughout most of the picture with rare glimpses here and there. Just a shot of a fin or a moving shadow was enough to get the blood pumping. When we finally see the great white in all its glory, it's an incredible sight to behold. The massive creature can swallow men whole, sink large boats, and has no shortage of an appetite. The greatest fear is that of the unknown, and it's something Spielberg would continue to utilize on Jurassic Park. It's amazing how good these dinosaurs look 27 years later. Jurassic Park hit the big screen in 1993, 16 years after Jaws. I did the math, so it's possibly wrong. Even though there were massive leaps in animatronics and CGI, the same less is more approach was used. Only around 15 minutes of screen time is dedicated to the dinosaurs. Everything else is atmosphere, which is what a lot of new movies fail to deliver on. The T-Rex is a massive, daunting creation that is slowly teased for a full hour before it reveals herself. Equally, if not arguably more intimidating, are the velociraptors. They clock in at cheetah speeds, are highly intelligent, and have a smile that proudly states, "Hi, I'm a d-." Dilophosaurus gets one of the creepiest scenes in the film. It plays a terrible game of fetch before blinding Nedry and giving him a false sense he could escape. That is, until he pops in for a final "Hello Newman" in the Jeep, and we're left with the silhouettes of what I can only presume to be a very painful death. Besides the aptly put meat-eating Metosauruses, there are a few gentler beasts on the island too. Brachiosaurus makes a few appearances, most notably when it unleashes a massive snot rocket on Lex. There's a stampede of Gallimimus that honestly could have used more screen time. And then there's that poor, sickly Triceratops. It's never explained in the film what exactly caused the lumbering creature to fall ill. The working theory from Dr. Sattler was that it had been snacking on nearby lilac berries. I have my own hunches as to what happened, but it goes very deep into the Jurassic Park lore, and quite frankly, we just don't have the time.
You will remember to wash your hands before you eat anything.
Here's the deal. Jaws ruined swimming for me as a child. I was frightened to go into a pool. That's how traumatized I was by the film. Now, as an adult, I know that that's silly. The only way a shark poses any sort of threat is if you make fun of its inability to swim backwards. Nevertheless, we wouldn't have Jurassic Park without Jaws, so I'm gonna go ahead and give this round to Bruce Almighty. Great looking sharks and dinosaurs can only take a movie so far. You need convincing actors to make us believe they are in life-threatening situations. Not only do we have sympathetic, likable characters, they also react to situations in believable ways. Roy Scheider plays Martin Brody, the new chief of Amity Island. He and the Jurassic Park lead, Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill, aren't so different, they and them. I think that's a sentence. One, they take their jobs very seriously and are willing to make unpopular choices to save those around them. Two, and I don't know why I'm counting, they are put into deadly situations on top of being paired with things they just don't care for. Brody hates the water and Dr. Grant thinks kids are the worst. This just adds an extra layer to an already terrible situation. For the most part, Brody's the only sane person on the island. His main obstacle to dealing with the shark is Mayor Larry Vaughn. This great dynamic would unfortunately become a boilerplate for a lot of monster movies and disaster movies in general. The one smart guy trying to warn those in charge about an imminent threat and being ignored. Richard Dreyfuss's character Hooper thankfully shows up later in the picture to assist the chief. Dreyfuss is just terrific here and plays so well off Brody. The other big standout performance comes from Robert Shaw as Quint. He's a shark hunter with a sad backstory, one he shares with the other guys over a few drinks. Alan Grant doesn't have as hard of a time convincing his party that things at the park aren't ideal. Gennaro does come around to things after a carcass hits the front of the car. It's a short-lived change of heart for him though. The park owner, Hammond, is played wonderfully by the late Richard Attenborough. He's not some mad scientist or corrupt politician. He genuinely wanted to make an amazing attraction for people to enjoy. He and Jeff Goldblum's character Malcolm have some of the best exchanges in the film.
Now eventually you do plan to have dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour, right?
Goldblum is just a blast to watch here as Dr. Ian Malcolm. Grant's partner Ellie, played by Laura Dern, is sharp, assertive, and has zero qualms about jumping right into things. She also doesn't have a problem with children. Kids can sometimes make or break a movie, depending on their performance and annoyance level. Sometimes I'm actively rooting for children to be killed off in films, but that wasn't the case for Lex or Tim. Here I was legitimately concerned for their well-being, especially after Tim rocketeers off an electrical fence later in the picture. The park is home to some awesome workers too, such as Arnold, Muldoon, Dr. Wu, and Dennis Nedry. Samuel L. Jackson manages to once again radiate cool in his small presence, and Bob Peck's character goes down the way he probably assumed he would. At the talons of those clever raptors. These were talons.
Clever girl.
Jaws has great performances, but Jurassic Park overwhelms with sheer quantity. It's gonna take the win here. When a young woman's remains wash up on shore, Police Chief Martin Brody has to make the tough call. He closes down Amity Island's #1 revenue stream. It's beaches. I don't know why I paused there for drama. This doesn't last long once the mayor gets involved. Suddenly, the original cause of death, determined to be a shark attack, has conveniently been changed to a boating accident. This gives a massive 25-foot great white shark carte blanche on the island inhabitants that enter its domain. As the death count starts to ramp up, it's clear that Brody is in over his head. Once it's painfully obvious that the water isn't safe, it's hunting season on this beast. One dead tiger shark later and the townspeople have some false hope to cling to. Although it's not enough to save Brody's face from a grieving mother's firm hand. Jaws feels like two very different acts. The first being the deaths and attempted containment of a problem, and the second act being the search for the killer in open waters. I think it's more than fair to say this doesn't go according to plan. The boat sinks and Quint dies hard, but ultimately a great one-liner followed by a good shot take down the big fish. It's a simple, effective story that gives us time to care about the leads and leave us with an unwarranted fear of sharks going forward. Regardless of the odds, I don't ever need to go into the ocean. I don't have to. Jurassic Park has a bit more going on with the story, but the premise is still easy to summarize. An old man previews a dinosaur zoo to some experts in the field, and things go awry. Scientists have discovered a way to grow dinosaurs thanks to flies stuck in amber. By extracting it and combining the DNA with frogs, you can build your very own T-Rex. Before visionary creator John Hammond opens up the park, he invites a couple paleontologists, a gifted mathematician, his grandkids, and the blood-sucking lawyer to approve of things. What starts out as a pretty lax tour of the park goes south real fast once a bad storm system hits. This provides the perfect conditions for the prehistoric creatures to escape their padlocks. It's that, plus Chief Computer Technician Dennis Nedry shutting down the entire power grid so he could steal some dinosaur DNA to sell to his outside investor. There's a lot going on there. The rest of the movie is an all-out race for survival as the park guests do everything they can to get the park back online and avoid being eaten in the process. Thankfully, a majority of the tour group makes it out in one piece, and they decide to pass on endorsing Hammond's Park of Frights. There are too many iconic moments to list off in both flicks. I have to give this round a tie. There's just no way around it, and if I could be frank with you, the previous rounds probably should have been a tie too, but we gotta have some drama in this. I can't even begin to imagine the work and obstacles that must have gone into making these movies. A lot of movies today, including most recent Shark and Jurassic Park movies, rely on mainly CGI to accomplish the creature effects. That wasn't possible on Jaws and was still in its infancy in the original Jurassic Park. Yet even today, the work done on those two pictures still outshines most of the new offerings. Most know by now that Jaws was a complete nightmare to shoot. The sharks would sink, break down, or just refuse to work properly. The crew developed cabin fever from a brutally long shooting schedule which ran 159 days, up a little from the planned 55. The budget blew past the $3.5 million mark to just under $10 million. Spielberg was almost fired a couple dozen times and refused to return for the sequel because of the miserable experience. Yet all of this led to an amazing final product with some great ingenuity. They basically waterboarded the actress in the opening scene to get the gurgling screams right. That was after they whipped her around in the water for a few hours via a pulley system. Spielberg reshot the floating head scene in a backyard swimming pool because he didn't like the original piece. Then there's the final death in the picture, which is still one of my favorite deaths in cinema because of how willing they all were to make it work. Jurassic Park uses a lot of the same concepts on a much larger scale. Stan Winston oversaw the creation and puppeteering of the incredible dinosaurs in the film. Because of the realistic look and movements of some of the builds, the actors were often able to give authentic reactions. It's easy to belt out a scream when you're looking up at an 18-foot tall, 36-foot wide T-Rex with around 12,000 pounds of terror weighing it down. There's about 6 minutes of CGI used in the picture too. This is 1993, folks. Nothing about this was easy or common practice for Industrial Light and Magic. They would take scans of the plastic dinosaur models, wireframe, animate, and paint them in the computer. One frame reportedly took 10 minutes to finish rendering. That's 10 minutes at 24 frames per second. I throw a fit if I have to wait 30 seconds for an app to update. The reason Jaws and Jurassic Park have lasted the test of time is because of the brilliant ways these artists and Spielberg use the environments to their advantage. By putting the T-Rex in torrential rain in the dead of night, you don't have to be super detailed on the creature. I have to quickly touch on the two film scores. Immediately recognizable with just a few chords. In the case of Jaws, 2 to be exact. The simple yet powerful score would earn composer John Williams his second Academy Award at the time. The cleverness of this score is that it trains the audience early on that the shark will appear when this theme is heard. That's not always the case though, so it works great to catch people off guard when out of nowhere an attack takes place in silence. Spielberg would later say his movie would only be half the success without Williams' contribution. I agree. Williams would return and knock it out of the park all over again in '93. You got a pun there. This composition was much more grand, with a full orchestra taking part in the awe-inspiring sound, recorded at the Skywalker Ranch. When doing research for these films, I was floored to find out that not only did John Williams not win the Oscar for Jurassic Park, he wasn't even nominated. It's an outrage. It's a scandal. The music in the film, outside of the main theme, takes the movie to a different level of entertainment, and I refuse to place Jaws above it. John Williams gets his due right here today. I'm throwing another tie out.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
When my fictitious friends come up to me and say, "Hey Adam, what are your favorite movies?" Jurassic Park and Jaws spring to mind. To me, this is what going to the movies is all about. You see the passion, the dedication, and the love for the craft poured into every single frame of these timeless achievements. Please give me your winner in the comments below, and don't be a coward like I did and throw out a tie. It's just sad. Alright, thanks for watching. I'm Adam, and this is Reel Rivalries. Thanks again for watching. Sound off in the comments below and tell us which two movies should rival next. If you enjoyed the rivalry, make sure to hit that like button and comment with your episode winner. If you're into movie debates, make sure to subscribe to ScreenRant for more Reel Rivalries and much, much more.